is the latest updates on the infrastructure package and budget reconciliation. So earlier this week, there was kind of the House was called back from its typical August recess, and in order to vote on two things: advancing budget reconciliation bill, and passage of the House of the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. So let's start talking about the infrastructure package and budget reconciliation. And really, this is the Build Back Better Act. The budget reconciliation, it's this big word, but it's otherwise known as the Build Back Better Act. And what happened earlier this week is that we were voting to advance debate and moving forward on budget reconciliation. And what this means is that we have this overall framework that was approved in how we're spending our budget funds where. And now what we needed to do was to vote to advance to allow us to actually start drafting this legislation and start allocating funds according to this overall framework. Now, there was a little bit of drama because I think it ended up being 10 conservative Democrats wanted to hold the Build Back Better Act hostage in order to get their infrastructure package prioritized and passed out of the gate. Now, why is this a bad thing? The reason this is a bad thing is that from the very, very beginning, a deal was struck that the conservative infrastructure package had to be paired with the more visionary Build Back Better Act in order for it to pass. The reason for this is because conservatives, and I mean conservative Democrats, as are partnering with the Republican Party in order to try to pass an infrastructure package that it frankly is anti-climate and it was drafted by Exxon Mobil, essentially. And we know this because an Exxon Mobil lobbyist was caught on videotape, bragging about the fact that he has these Democrats on speed dial and the role that Exxon Mobil played in trying to shape this legislation. So what they were trying to do, essentially, is pass this infrastructure package so that they can kill the budget reconciliation package, to kill the Build Back Better Act. Now, there are some investments in this infrastructure package that are good, that are frankly, we will not object to. Things like climate resiliency investments, investing in infrastructure that can help communities build seawalls or help rebuild infrastructure that is being threatened by climate change. We don't object to that. In fact, we think that this infrastructure package is underinvesting in those needs. Investments in things like trying to rebuild elements of our national power grid, we don't object to that. There are other parts of this bill that I think are extremely alarming. Things like partnering with private equity in order to allow states to auction off toll roads, et cetera, as well as sneaky language where they talk about putting billions of dollars in tax breaks for quote unquote carbon capture technology. Carbon capture sounds nice, right? And this is what fossil fuel lobbyists are experts at. They are experts at branding certain tax breaks to sound like they're climate friendly when they're really fossil fuel wish lists. And so some of the issues with carbon capture tax subsidies is that we saw in California that fossil fuel companies will use certain language drafted on the premise of carbon capture technology to essentially help themselves drill more oil. And that is, as we know, the last thing that we need, as we saw from the most recent IPCC report, that we are at code red for humanity and for our future. So the argument here is that if the conservative infrastructure package alone was passed alone, not only would it be not enough, but it could potentially be actively harmful. What makes up for the infrastructure package is the Build Back Better Act. The Build Back Better Act and budget reconciliation will allow us to make the actual investments in climate that can help us draw down emissions. It will expand Medicare to include vision and dental healthcare, vision, dental, and hearing and vision, I believe. Yeah, vision, dental, and hearing in Medicare. So expanding your Medicare, if you are benefiting from Medicare right now, the Build Back Better Act will expand it so that you can get your dental care taken care of, hearing and vision assistance taken care of as well. The Build Back Better Act will also help establish universal pre-K across the country. Here in the United States, or rather, I wish in the United States overall, but here in New York City, we have seen how universal pre-K has benefited many families, but this will help us make it national. And as we know, New York City, universal pre-K is something that started to roll out in the city, but even the whole state doesn't get to benefit from that. And so it's really important that we get universal pre-K, as well as so many other critical investments, including one key area that we're fighting for, which is also the establishment of a civilian climate corps. So the argument here is that we have to pair both of these things, and because frankly, we need each other. We cannot escape or get past the fact that we need those conservative votes in order to pass the Build Back Better Act, but those conservatives need progressive votes in order to pass their infrastructure package. So by pairing both of these things together is the only way that we can guarantee passage of both. And so what conservative Democrats tried to do this week is hold the whole situation hostage, when this has been the agreement from the very beginning. There's been several months. This was the established course several months ago. And these 10 conservative Democrats essentially attempted to put a stick of dynamite into all of this in order to essentially sabotage President Biden's infrastructure agenda. And so I want you all to know well in advance that I have zero intention of participating in this charade. And I will not vote for a conservative infrastructure package alone. We must have budget reconciliation. We must pass the Build Back Better Act. And I will not vote. I will not vote for a conservative infrastructure package unless we have a Build Back Better, aka this budget reconciliation package that goes above and beyond that is going to help people's lives. That is what it is. And it's extremely important that this is a strategy. I'm telling you this in advance because I will likely get criticized for it. We will likely be criticized for it. And there will likely be an attempt to use media and headlines, et cetera, in order to try to pressure us into approving an Exxon Mobil designed infrastructure package. And I will not do it. I refuse. Maybe those 10 Democrats rely on private equity and big money and lobbyist funding in order to preserve their careers in Washington. But thanks to you all, I don't. And I rely on my service to my constituents and everyday people and the support of everyday people in order to do my job. And so lobbyists don't tell me what to do. I listen to you all. And if they're going to fight for lobbyists and private equity interests, I'm going to fight for you harder. And so, this is lawmaking. It gets a little, rough and tumble sometimes, but I'm not going to blink first. That's for sure. So that is my promise to you. The other major opportunity that we have in budget reconciliation and the Build Back Better Act, which is another reason why I'm so staunch on this, is because this is one of our biggest opportunities to enact immigration reform and to create a path to citizenship for millions of people in this country and thousands of constituents right here at home in the Bronx and Queens. We're talking about pathways to citizenship for dreamers, TPS holders, farm workers, and essential workers who are undocumented. That is too precious and too important of an opportunity for us to allow to sail by. And so what I am asking for you all is for your support as we hold strong, because this is going to get tough. This is going to get difficult. And it's going to happen. The showdown is going to happen in late September. So I, as your representative, am letting you know that in late September, it might get a little ugly. But this is because this is what we're fighting for. We are fighting for a path to citizenship. We are fighting for climate investments so that we can reduce our carbon emissions in dramatic ways by 2030 and 2035. And we're doing this so that you can get expanded Medicare and expanded childcare. These to me are so worth it. And that is just really the tip of the iceberg of everything else that's in the Build Back Better Act, including the Civilian Climate Corps, including public housing investments, including assistance for homeowners. There is so much more in the Build Back Better Act. And so if it gets ugly in late September, I just want you all to know in advance, this is what we're fighting for. And this is why we are holding out, because it's a unique opportunity and it is worth it. And we do not know what the future holds for us. We don't know what the outcome of the 2022 elections are. We don't know. And so what we know is that we have this chance right now, and we need to push as hard as we possibly can. So that's that on that. Next after this, we have, let's see.
Sorry to interrupt you, Congresswoman, really quickly before moving on to the next slide. I just wanted to ask if you could speak a little slower so our interpreters can finish giving all of this really important information.
You got it. Thank you. All right.